Harry's cash crisis. He is flat broke, and this programme has been told that as the money runs out and runs out fast, Meghan will, and I quote, be looking to replace Harry with a US billionaire. You heard me right. Meghan Markle is going to dump Harry and replace him with a US entrepreneur worth billion.
Money changes everything in a marriage. In the first week of March 2026, a financial analysis circulated among a small group of people who follow the Sussex household's commercial situation very closely. It was not a palace document. It was not a government report. It was the kind of careful, sourced accounting that serious royal observers do when they want to understand what is actually happening behind the polished public surface of a family that has been, for 6 years, selling its story to the world. And what that analysis found was this. When you add up the known costs of running the Sussex household in Montecito, California, the private security, the mortgage on the $14 million property, the staff, the legal fees, the charitable obligations, the travel, the lifestyle expenses that come with maintaining the kind of public profile the Sussexes have built, the annual outgoing is somewhere between $3.5 and $5 million a year. Conservative estimates, possibly higher. Against that number, the current confirmed income is considerably less than it was 2 years ago. The Spotify deal is gone. The Netflix arrangement, while not officially terminated, is under strain, with multiple sources reporting that the streamer has not committed to the volume of content originally envisaged. The speaking circuit generates income, but not at the level that a multi-million-dollar annual overhead requires to be sustained comfortably. The book advance from Penguin Random House for a sequel to Spare has reportedly been placed on hold pending clarity about Harry's legal situation in both the United Kingdom and the United States. And Meghan's lifestyle brand, American Riviera Orchard, launched with considerable fanfare in early 2026, has yet to generate the kind of revenue that would meaningfully offset the household's running costs. The gap between what comes in and what goes out is, according to royal financial analyst and investigative biographer Tom Bower, whose decade of research into the Sussex household makes him one of the most informed observers of their financial situation anywhere in the world. Significant and growing. Today, we are going to tell you the full story of the Sussex financial crisis as it stands in early 2026. We are going to tell you what Tom Bower has said about the state of the marriage under this financial pressure and what his analysis suggests about where things are heading. If this is your first time on this channel, welcome. This is exactly what we do here. We take the complicated stories of the royal family and we tell them properly, with context, with balance, and with the depth that these stories genuinely require. If you want to follow this story all the way through, please hit the subscribe button right now and turn on the bell notification so every new video comes straight to you. We are glad you are here. Now let us begin properly. To understand the financial situation Harry and Meghan are navigating in 2026, you need to understand the deal that was supposed to make everything work. And to understand that deal, you need to go back to January 2020. On January 8, 2020, Harry and Meghan released a statement on their Sussex royal website announcing that they intended to step back as senior members of the royal family, divide their time between the United Kingdom and North America, and work toward financial independence. That phrase, financial independence, was the cornerstone of everything they said publicly about why they were leaving. They did not want to be dependent on public funding. They wanted to stand on their own 2 feet. They wanted to build something of their own. The institution's response was, in private, somewhere between bewilderment and controlled fury. The palace had not been consulted. The statement had not been approved. The process that normally governs major decisions involving senior working royals had been bypassed entirely. There were several weeks of difficult negotiations, discussions about security arrangements, about the use of royal titles, about what continuing relationship, if any, the Sussexes would have with the institution. Those negotiations concluded in what became known as the Sandringham Summit, at which the broad parameters of their departure were agreed. And then Harry and Meghan moved to California, first to Tyler Perry's estate in Beverly Hills, and then, in the summer of 2020, to the Montecito property they purchased for approximately $14.7 million in July of that year. The purchase was funded, according to reporting at the time, in part by Harry's inheritance from Princess Diana's estate, estimated to be in the region of £10 million, and a significant mortgage on a significant property in one of the most expensive real estate markets in the world. That mortgage has a monthly cost. That cost is part of the financial reality that Tom Bower and others have been describing with increasing urgency in early 2026. Now let us be precise about where the money came from in the years following the move, because it is only by understanding the income side of the equation that the current pressure becomes fully clear. The first and largest deal the Sussexes signed in their new life was with Netflix. In September 2020, it was announced that Harry and Meghan had signed a multi-year production deal with the streaming giant. The value of that deal was reported at the time to be in the region of $100 million, though neither Netflix nor the Sussexes ever officially confirmed that figure. What the deal promised was a significant and sustained income stream contingent on the couple producing content: documentaries, series, feature films, children's programming that the streamer could use. The first significant output of that deal was the Harry and Meghan documentary series, released in December 2022. It was, by Netflix's own metrics, one of the most watched documentary series in the platform's history in its opening week. It generated enormous public attention and considerable controversy. And it secured, for the time being, the commercial relationship with Netflix. The second deal was with Spotify. In December 2020, it was announced that Archewell Audio, the production company Harry and Meghan had established, had signed a deal with the podcast platform worth a reported $18 million. The deal was intended to produce a range of podcasts. What was eventually produced was a single series, Archetypes, hosted by Meghan, which ran for one season of 12 episodes in 2022. In June 2023, Spotify and Archewell Audio announced by mutual agreement that they would not be renewing their partnership. A Spotify executive, speaking at an industry conference shortly after the announcement, described the parting with a phrase that became widely circulated. He called it a case of two parties coming together with different expectations of what would be produced and how quickly. That was, in financial terms, $18 million that had been expected to recur, that had been factored into the household's financial planning, and that disappeared in a single announcement. And that is the pattern that has repeated itself with variations across the Sussex commercial enterprise since 2023. Deals that were expected to generate ongoing income have generated one-time payments and then ended. Projects that were announced with fanfare have been quieter in their execution than their announcements suggested. And the household's ongoing costs, the security, the property, the staff, the legal fees, have continued regardless. Tom Bower, whose book Revenge, Meghan, Harry and the War Between the Windsors drew on a decade of research into the couple, has spoken publicly on multiple occasions about the financial picture as he understands it. His assessment, given in interviews in late 2025 and early 2026, is worth examining carefully because it comes from a position of considerable knowledge, even as it represents his own analysis rather than confirmed fact. Bower has said that the costs of running the Sussex household are, in his phrase, enormous. He has cited security alone as costing between $1 and $2 million annually, a figure that reflects both the professional private security team the couple employs and the infrastructure costs of maintaining a property at the level of security they require. He has cited the upkeep of the Montecito estate, including staff, maintenance, and the ongoing mortgage costs, as adding another $2 million or more to the annual outgoing, And he has suggested that when you add the broader expenses of a couple that operates at the level of international profile the Sussexes maintain, the travel, the event costs, the charitable commitments, the professional representation, the total annual expenditure is conservatively in the range of $4 to $5 million. Against that, Bauer's assessment of the current income picture is that it falls significantly short of what is needed to sustain those costs comfortably over the long term. He has said, in various formulations across several interviews, that he believes the Sussexes are running out of money because, as he puts it, they have run out of people interested in buying their story at the price they need to charge for it. That is a precise and rather devastating assessment, and it is worth unpacking what it means. The Sussex commercial proposition, the thing that Harry and Meghan have been selling since they left royal life, is at its core a story. The story of two people who were inside one of the most extraordinary institutions in the world, who felt that it was failing them and failing the values they believed in, and who chose to walk away from extraordinary privilege in pursuit of something more authentic. That story has genuine power. It resonates with people who have felt trapped by institutions, by family expectations, by the gap between public performance and private reality. It generated enormous sympathy, enormous attention, and enormous commercial value. But a story once told has diminishing returns. The Oprah interview told it once in March 2021 and reached an audience of many millions. The Netflix documentary told it again in December 2022 and reached an audience of comparable size. The memoir Spare told it again in January 2023 and sold millions of copies. Each successive telling reached a slightly smaller audience, attracted slightly more skepticism, and generated slightly less commercial impact than the one before it. That is not a criticism. It is simply the economics of narrative. Every story has a natural lifespan, and the Sussex story, as currently constructed, appears to have reached the point where the audience for the next chapter is meaningfully smaller than the audience for the previous one. Let us pause here, because we have covered a great deal of important ground, and there is considerably more to come. If you are finding this story as significant as we believe it is, please take a moment right now to share this video with someone who would appreciate hearing it. A friend, a family member, someone who follows the royal story closely and would value having the financial picture explained properly and in full. Sharing is genuinely the best way to help us reach more people who deserve this kind of careful coverage. We are grateful for every share. Now let us continue. Now let us turn to the question that this financial story inevitably raises, and it is a question that Bauer has addressed directly in his public commentary. What does sustained financial pressure do to a marriage? Before we go further, let us be absolutely clear about something. What follows is analysis and reported commentary. It is not established fact. Neither Harry nor Meghan has spoken publicly about the state of their marriage in any way that supports claims of serious strain. They have appeared together at public events. They have released joint statements. To the public eye, the marriage presents as intact. Any suggestion that it is under pressure beyond the ordinary pressures that any couple faces is, at this stage, a matter of external commentary rather than confirmed reality. With that clarity established, here is what Bauer has said, in his own words as reported across multiple interviews. He has said that financial pressure is always a significant test of any relationship. He has said that the specific financial pressure the Sussexes are under, the combination of high ongoing costs, declining income, and the commercial uncertainty that comes with the legal and institutional challenges they are currently navigating, represents a more significant test than most couples face. And he has said that, in his assessment based on years of research into both individuals, the marriage is under strain that he believes will be difficult to sustain indefinitely. He has also said something more specific and more personal that deserves careful consideration. He has said that one of the factors that may ultimately determine the trajectory of this marriage is the question of what options are available to each person individually outside of the partnership. And here he has made a distinction that is worth examining honestly. For Meghan, Bauer suggests, the options are broader than they might appear. She has, in his analysis, the personal drive, the professional ambition, and the public profile to rebuild a commercial career in the United States, even if the Sussex brand, as currently constructed, does not survive in its present form. Whether that assessment is accurate is a matter of opinion, but Bauer's point is that Meghan's professional identity is not entirely dependent on her marriage in the way that her position within the royal world was not dependent on her own background. She brought herself to that world, and she retains herself if she leaves this one. For Harry, the calculation is different, and it is different in a way that is genuinely poignant if you think about it carefully. Harry has, since January 2020, built a life and an identity that is almost entirely defined by his relationship with Meghan and by the decisions they made together. The move to California was their decision. The Netflix deal was their deal. The Oprah interview was their interview. The memoir, while written in Harry's voice, was in significant measure a story about their shared experience. Remove Meghan from that picture, and what remains of the Harry identity that has been constructed since 2020 is considerably less clear. And here is the more painful dimension. The path back to the institution Harry left, the path back to any kind of formal role in the royal family, back to a relationship with his father and his brother that resembles the family connections he once had. That path is, according to virtually every observer who has commented on it, complicated enormously by the public statements Harry and Meghan have made jointly over the past 6 years. The Oprah interview, the memoir, the documentary. Each of those has said things about members of the royal family, about Charles, about Camilla, about William and Kate, that have made reconciliation not impossible, but genuinely difficult in the way that things said publicly are always harder to walk back than things said privately. That is not a judgment. It is a structural reality. And Tom Bauer, to his credit, has acknowledged it with the kind of balance that the subject deserves. He has said that, in his view, the lack of a clear path back for Harry to the institution he left is, paradoxically, one of the things that keeps the marriage together. Not romance, necessarily, not shared vision necessarily, but the absence of an alternative. The sense for Harry that this is where he is, and that the world outside this marriage and this life in California is considerably less accessible to him than it might appear from the outside. Those words carrying everything that is unsaid about the state of two people who have, perhaps, painted themselves into a corner they did not fully anticipate. Now let us look at the broader pattern. Because the financial situation of early 2026 did not arrive without warning, and the pattern of decisions that led to it contains lessons that go beyond this particular couple. The central commercial bet that Harry and Meghan made in 2020 was that their story, the inside account of life in the royal family, the pain, the racism, the institutional failures, the personal costs, was a commodity with lasting value. They were, at the time, probably right. The first telling of that story was genuinely valuable. The Oprah interview alone generated more global attention than almost any media event of the year. The appetite was real, but the bet had an implicit assumption embedded in it. The assumption was that the story would continue to develop, that new chapters would be added, that the royal world they had left would continue to generate drama and tension and revelation that they could add their voices to. In other words, that their proximity to the story would remain commercially valuable even after the initial telling. What has happened instead is that the royal world has, in certain respects, moved on. King Charles came to the throne. William and Kate have continued building their public profile with considerable skill and discipline. The institution has dealt with Andrew's disgrace and title deprivation. The reform agenda has moved forward. and Harry and Meghan, 6 years removed from active royal life, living in California with 2 young children and a lifestyle brand that has yet to find its footing, have found themselves in the peculiar position of being simultaneously too royal to be treated as ordinary celebrities and too distant from the institution to generate the kind of inside royal content that their commercial deals originally promised. That is a genuinely difficult position to navigate. And the financial consequences of being in that position are, as Bauer's analysis suggests, beginning to make themselves felt. American Riviera Orchard, Meghan's lifestyle brand, represents the most significant attempt to find a new commercial identity that is not dependent on the royal story. Launched in early 2026 with a carefully orchestrated social media presence, the brand encompasses food products, home goods, and the kind of aspirational lifestyle content that has generated enormous commercial value for figures like Gwyneth Paltrow's Goop. The comparison is instructive. Goop took years to find its commercial footing, faced considerable skepticism and controversy, and ultimately built a genuine business through persistence and product quality. It is entirely possible that American Riviera Orchard will follow a similar trajectory. But in the immediate term, the brand has not yet generated the revenue that would meaningfully offset the Sussex household's running costs. The jam labels with the disputed Princess Lilibet branding have created legal complications. The broader product range has been slower to market than the initial announcement suggested, and the aspirational lifestyle positioning requires a level of public goodwill that, in early 2026, is somewhat more contested than the brand's launch strategy appeared to anticipate. What would help American Riviera Orchard enormously, what would help the entire Sussex commercial enterprise enormously, is a period of stability, a period in which the legal disputes quiet down, the title questions are resolved, and the public narrative around the family shifts from crisis management to something more positive and constructive. Whether that period arrives and when is one of the central uncertainties of the story as it currently stands. Now let us look at what happens next. And let us do it, as we always try to do, with honesty about the limits of what we know. There are several possible trajectories for the Sussex financial situation in the months ahead. The most optimistic scenario is that American Riviera Orchard finds its footing more quickly than the early signs suggest. That the Netflix relationship, despite the reported tensions, produces content that the streamer values and promotes. That the legal situations, the title reviews, the defamation proceedings, resolve in ways that restore rather than further damage the commercial reputation. And that Harry finds a professional identity, perhaps through the Invictus Games or through environmental advocacy, that generates both income and public goodwill independent of the Sussex brand narrative. That is a scenario in which the financial pressure eases, the marriage stabilizes, and the story that was beginning to look like a decline finds a second chapter with genuine commercial value. The more challenging scenario is that the financial pressure continues to build without a significant new income source to offset it. That the gap between costs and income widens rather than narrows. That the legal and institutional challenges consume resources, both financial and emotional, that cannot be replaced quickly, and that the combination of financial strain and the absence of the shared external mission that characterized the early years of their California life puts the marriage under the kind of sustained pressure that even strong relationships struggle to absorb. Which of those scenarios is more likely is not something this script can determine. The information available does not support a confident prediction in either direction. What the available information does support is the assessment that the next 12 months are, by any measure, the most financially consequential in the Sussex story since they left royal life in January 2020. Let us now, as we do at the end of every story we tell, step back from the numbers and the commercial deals and the legal situations and spend a moment with the human beings at the center of it. Harry is 41 years old. He grew up in a world of extraordinary privilege and extraordinary constraint. He was loved publicly before he was known privately. He lost his mother when he was 12 years old in an event so public and so traumatic that it shaped him in ways he has been trying to articulate ever since. He served in the military with genuine distinction. He created the Invictus Games, which has brought real meaning and real healing to wounded veterans in a way that deserves genuine acknowledgement. He fell in love with a woman who understood something about him that the institution never quite managed to: the gap between the public Harry and the private one. And he made a choice. In January 2020, he made the choice to leave. It was, by his own account, the hardest thing he has ever done. Not because he did not believe in it, but because he understood, at some level, what it cost. What it cost in terms of family, in terms of identity, in terms of the connection to an institution that, for all its failures, was the world he had been born into and had always known. He is now living with the consequences of that choice, not in a punitive sense. Choices have consequences, and that is simply reality, but in the human sense, the sense of a man who is far from home, in a marriage that is under pressure, with a financial situation that requires urgent attention, and with the door back to the world he came from, not quite closed, but not quite open either. That is a complicated place to be. It deserves to be acknowledged as such, not with pity, not with mockery, but with the kind of human recognition that we would want for anyone navigating a situation of that complexity. Meghan is 44 years old. She is, by any objective measure, a woman of considerable intelligence, ambition, and resilience. She has navigated situations that would have broken many people. She has built a public profile, a commercial enterprise, and a family life under conditions of scrutiny that are genuinely without modern precedent for someone who entered the royal world as an outsider. She has her own story, her own pain, her own version of events that is, in all likelihood, more nuanced and more human than either her most ardent supporters or her fiercest critics are willing to acknowledge. She is also a mother. To a 6-year-old boy and a 4-year-old girl who are growing up in Montecito, California, in a family that is complicated and under pressure and surrounded by people with opinions about them. Whatever else is happening, when the commercial pressures, the legal disputes, the institutional battles, those two children are at the center of her life, and that matters. Whatever conclusions one draws about the choices she has made, that fact is not in question. What comes next for this family is not yet written. The financial picture may improve, the legal situations may resolve, the marriage may find the stability that financial pressure has strained. Harry may find a professional identity that is genuinely his own, independent of the Sussex brand narrative. Meghan's commercial ventures may generate the kind of sustained success that their current potential suggests is possible. None of those outcomes is certain. All of them are possible. And the story, as it always has been with these two people, will continue to generate more chapters than anyone predicted at the beginning. She will navigate it. He will navigate it. Because that is what people do, even when the path is unclear and the resources are thinner than they would like, and the way back to where they came from is complicated in ways they did not fully anticipate when they first set out. That is not a royal story. That is a human one, and that is why it keeps us watching. Thank you so much for staying with us through every part of this story today. It is a complicated picture, financially, personally, and humanly, and we are genuinely grateful for the time and the attention you have given to it. We want to ask you one very specific question in the comments below, and we would love your honest answer. Here it is. Do you believe Harry has found, in his life in California, the freedom and the happiness that he was looking for when he made the decision to leave in January 2020? Or do you think the life he has built is different in some important ways from the one he imagined? That question sits at the heart of everything this story is really about, and we want to hear where you land on it. Every comment is read by us personally, and your thoughts genuinely shape the stories we cover next. If you are not yet subscribed, please do it right now. Click subscribe, turn on the bell, and join a community that follows the royal story with care, with honesty, and with the deep respect for your intelligence that you deserve. We will see you in the next one. Thank you so much. We will see you very soon.